When building the fence for the swap saw, you start off with 2x6. We've already run this across a jointer, which is the first step, making this surface flat, straight, and level. Next, we apply the template. This is supplied with the kit, and it shows you exactly where to drill. We line the center line up here in the center of the 2x6. This happens to be a 10-foot 2x6 because I'm building a 10-foot fence. Line this up to the center. Bring that right up the 5-foot mark. And then we tape the ends. Next, locate the thing for square. We line the top edge of the 2x6 with this line. Now we do the same with the other end. Next, we mark the center line of the jacking screws on the bottom edge, as shown. We pick up the center line and put a vertical line on the bottom edge of the 2x6. Plus or minus a quarter inch is close enough. It's not that critical. And repeat at the far end. This little wooden block is one of the most important tools you can have. We use the same drill bit that we're going to use to drill the pilot holes through the clamping bolt hole and the pivot bolt hole through this. Did it on the drill press. We use that as a guide, giving us a perpendicular hole every time. Drilling the first clamping bolt hole, we do both of them exactly the same way. And now we do the pivot bolt hole in the center. Next, we drill the holes for the jacking bolts that go on the bottom. They need to be fairly deep. 5/16 inch pilot hole first, then we open up to 11/32. The bolt will have to stick in at least 1.5 inches. Repeat on this opposite end. This is set to drill it in the center on that edge. Now we open it up to 11/32. And we repeat at the other end. Now we counterbore all 3 holes, both clamping bolt holes and the pivot bolt hole. This is a Forstner drill bit, 1 1/16 inch in diameter. 1 inch works fine, 1.25 inch would work fine as well. We open this one up to 5/16. And then 7/16. Now we cut the dado for the T-track on the face of the 2x6. It's 3/4 inch wide, 3/8 inch deep, and runs the length of the 2x6. The center line of the router bit is 1 3/8 inch from the top surface that we ran across the jointer. The rotation of the router bit, being clockwise, pulls the fence into the material, ensuring that we have a nice straight dado and it doesn't pull away from the material. Next, we install the T-nut into the pivot bolt hole, and the threaded inserts into the bottom edge for the jacking screws. And we also install the elevator bolt or the jacking screw and the lock nut that holds it in place once we get it in. We set it to 3/4 of an inch tall there, and we install the threaded insert at the far end and repeat with the jacking screw. Slip it into the panel saw, line up the pivot bolt hole, put the pivot bolt in for the back side. Then we check the whole thing for square to make sure that we're fairly close. It doesn't have to be exact, but fairly close here. Then we put our drill bit through that same pilot hole and mark the location in the back panel. Do that at both ends. Now we remove the fence by removing the pivot bolt and extracting from the end. Then we pick up the hole that we put in from the pilot and the fence and ensure that it goes all the way through both the back panel on both sides. Then we open it up to 5/16 and then 7/16, and then we repeat. Next we take T-nuts and we install them from the back side in those same holes, wrap it in with a little hammer. Next we open up the clamp bolt holes, but not the pivot bolt hole. Repeat at the other end. We drill from the back side so we don't get splintering and tear out. And we actually cut this with the saw to mark the location where to put the high density polyethylene. At this point the fence is basically done. All that's left is to attach the polyethylene, the T-track, and sand and varnish it so that we can put the scale on the front.